All right, I want to read some of the stories from Sporting Moustaches that I haven't had a chance to read live yet. We're going to start with the air hockey one. And Alan Crawford did these amazing illustrations for each story in the collection. This one's called Pigheaded. No one knew where he came from, how he had learned such exquisite control, or if Hans Freeman was indeed his real name. But ever since that late July evening in 1984, he had been a force to be reckoned with. Hans simply appeared out of nowhere that day, standing by the Wolfboro Rec air hockey table, his 6'4", 250-pound frame glued to a spot one step back from its right-hand side, extending a challenge to any and all passers-by using only his eyes and a slight turn of the head. Those at the video games covertly kept tabs on the proceedings, and when second-string quarterback Jack Mellon, eager to impress Diane Campbell, who had finally agreed to go out with him, accepted Freeman's offer, a sizable crowd closed in, emanating a collective gasp when Hans wordlessly began wrapping his lengthy goatee around the red paddle. They continued to watch in amazement as Hans then hunched over the console, eyes completely focused on the puck, head at the ready, body firmly planted in place. Now, Jack Mellon and Diane Campbell, a double-barreled reference to John Cougar Mellencamp and his song Jack and Diane there, which came out in '82. People still been listening to that on the jukebox in 1984. It was over before anyone knew it. Hans's face lunging with his striker in one long, even flow, unintentional Pearl Jam reference, deking and twisting to fire shot after shot, slipping in his 7 in less than a minute. Jack kicked the machine and, muttering something about "this freak," stormed off sulkily, attempting to drag the reluctant Miss Campbell with him. Instead, she stood her ground, slipped a quarter into the jukebox, and as ZZ Top's legs began to blare out of the speakers, joined the group gathering around this newcomer to congratulate him. Hans, secretive, but not as quiet a gentleman as his intense pre-game concentration would imply, was soon on the receiving end of many a backslap and soda pop from the wowed denizens of Wolfboro, New Hampshire. Introductions were made, snacks were purchased, future plans discussed. Hans's play was so impressive, most did not connect his name to the prowess they'd just witnessed until long after the rec center closed that night. And it wasn't until months after he started becoming famous on the competitive scene that the first disparaging comments were heard, pointing out that he actually did grip the sides of the table with his fingertips during play. What Hans did reveal about himself that evening, as the jukebox cranked out Van Halen, Duran Duran, Michael Jackson, and other much-loved hits of the day, eventually moving out to the parking lot with a cooler, boombox, and tape of Black Sabbath's Paranoid, was that he had just come from Climax, Georgia, having had enough of the heat and deciding to leave before it drove him crazy. Now that is obviously a reference to David Lee Roth's first solo EP, Crazy from the Heat, and it's Black Sabbath's Paranoid album because War Pigs is on that, as we'll soon see. Itinerant by nature, he said he'd stick around these parts for a while until the great hand of fate moved him on. For from that he could never be free. Kicking off a tradition that would carry on through the ensuing months of his stay, as the party broke up, all raised a beverage container to toast "Chin Chin," with a smiling nod in the direction of Hans's goatee. Chin Chin because, the 3 little pigs, not by the hair of my chinny chin chin, just keep an eye out for that. Every night for some weeks he would arrive at the rec center at dusk and proceed to entertain his new friends at the air hockey table. At one point or another, all the locals had a go against him, but it was more to see Hans in action than harboring any hopes of actually winning themselves. Occasionally they would move on to football, foosy as it was known, where Hans would proceed to wrap his goatee around the center bar, controlling the goalie and other 2 attacking lines with his hands, dominating here too, and when the game was quickly won, unfurling his hair from the handle with the most elegant flick of his head, dazzling all as it careened through the air to once again hang below his chin. So captivating was Hans to be around that if they were playing doubles, Hans obviously on the forward rods, his teammate, upon their inevitable win, would often whip off his shirt, spinning it in the air as he ran around the rec center as if it were a real soccer pitch. Rather than having peaked down in Georgia, as the name of Climax might imply, the world was only just now getting wind of Hans Freeman. The underground newspaper coverage of oddities and outliers such as himself was starting to seep into the mainstream press, audiences eager for more extreme varieties of sport. The mysterious aura surrounding Hans, with his seeming to have emerged from climax the previous year as if out of thin air, made him a favorite for reporters and gossip columnists alike to conjecture upon. Articles appeared, helping to pack houses for competitions in locations as diverse as a farm in Brooklyn, Maine, a high school gym in Angel Beach, Florida, at a Parisian fashion mag extravaganza, and on the grounds of a well-beloved castle in rural England, lines forming hours ahead of time to see this facial force. The castle, yes, that's a Woodhouse reference to the Empress of Blandings, Lord Emsworth's prize pig. There's at least one more of those in the collection, in the archery story, if I remember correctly. But back to the story. This was also the beginning of Hans's severe spinal problems. Never let them see you sweat, they say. Well, Hans Freeman was of the adage, never let them see your cervical vertebrae injuries manifested in an outward neck brace. And in the eternal clash between doctor's orders and outward appearances, Hans compromised by wearing one whenever he was alone, hidden behind closed doors with the shades securely drawn. As word of his abilities grew and he began traveling the world regularly for exhibition tournaments, Hans had a chiropractor in every port. Despite his love of Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, and an up-and-coming band called Metallica, he had to remain hyper-aware and not let himself give in to the temptation to headbang along with their tunes. He unwittingly came across as too uptight at concerts, though a few strokes of his goatee could usually be counted upon to change this perception to one of a deeply contemplative individual absorbed in the intellectual qualities of the music. As 1985 rolled through and the world attempted to come to grips with David Lee Roth having left Van Halen, Wolfboro was a long ways back in Hans's rearview mirror. Heeding the frontman's message and prefiguring Gretzky's arrival in Los Angeles by 3 years, Hans Freeman rolled up to the oceanside air hockey tables of Santa Monica and Venice Beach's pool halls and arcades, soon finding he preferred the machines just sitting outside on the sand. He attributed his sanity to the dryness of the heat, another reference to that Roth EP, wow. Though he sometimes struggled to keep a level head with all the attention his growing fame was bringing him. Hans liked the area enough to make it his home, even if tournaments kept him on the road most months of the year. Long hours in the car didn't help his neck any. By the time he next returned to LA, he could turn neither left nor right, let alone deftly maneuver an air hockey puck by the hairs of his chinny chin chin. As luck would have it, one afternoon in a Hollywood coffeehouse, as Hans was grimacing through raising a cup of joe, Dr. Wilbur Slothrop recognized him from the papers and offered a consultation free of charge. When x-rays confirmed just how severe the damage was, Hans decided to fight the pain no longer and listened attentively as Dr. Slothrop told him about an experimental surgery in which a portion of pig spine would swap out his defective upper vertebrae. Now, Slothrop, obviously a reference to Gravity's Rainbow, but also, in Gravity's Rainbow, Slothrop has that affinity with pigs. So it's very pleased to get that in there. There are pinching references throughout, especially in the speed skating story with the V for Veloso. Big nod to Pynchon there, Tommy P. The operation was a success, and Hans recovered in time to begin training for his next big event, Newark, New Jersey's International Open. Warming up for the Brick City, he took first place in the Bluegrass State Invitational held in Straw, Kentucky, and then again at Baton Rouge's inaugural Red Striker Sudden Death Saturday. Now those place names were chosen, Newark as the Brick City, Straw, Kentucky, Baton Rouge being Red Stick, as what the materials the Three Little Pigs built their houses from. I don't know if you can tell, but this isn't real, so I'm just going to take it off because it's now interfering with me telling the story. Hope y'all don't mind. Hope you're not devastated that, I was fooling you there. Whew. Sorry. Competitive air hockey is no world to keep secrets in, however, and before he left California, the press were running wild with headlines of swine spine and piggyback. Detractors everywhere now referring to Hans as Hooves Freeman. Hans, as he still called himself, rolled into Newark on the eve of a full moon, the International Open due to start at 5 p.m. the following day. He awoke in his hotel room and after performing his usual stretches, decided to spend the afternoon relaxing with a six-pack of Coors. A mass of dark clouds were descending on the city, compelling Hans to make his way over to the arena well ahead of time, picking up another sixer along the way. As the first pucks were placed, a gargantuan storm broke out over the tri-state area, colossal thunderclaps drowning out the incessant clicking of the tables. Over the course of a few stormy hours, Hans soared through to the final round with his usual aplomb. Walking to the console reserved for the championship match with his as-yet unopened last beer clenched in his fist, Hans waited patiently for his opponent to arrive. And when they did, it was sensational. Blazing around the windows of the hall in a fantastic 360-degree display, lightning flared as if on a loop, crackling and zigzagging repeatedly over the entire expanse of sky. And when it was over, Hans was staring a familiar figure dead in the eyes. Now enveloped in a head of hair far more voluminous than Hans's own, with a full brown beard down past his chest, Jack Mellon looked like something out of Teen Wolf. Smarting from his defeat 3 years previous in front of the lovely Diane Campbell, who never spoke to him again, Jack had left New Hampshire and honed his chops first on the Ohio circuit, rapidly becoming a star player in Columbus and Cleveland while simultaneously studying economics and playing in a covers band. That's a reference to the Michael J. Fox, Joan Jett film Light of Day. I mean, we've got Teen Wolf, so, it's going to be a bit of a roll with those. When he eventually caught wind that his nemesis was out in California, Jack hightailed it to Hill Valley, all the while grooming his beard longer and longer. By the time Jack tracked his foe down and settled himself in Hollywood, Hans was laying low, recovering from his spine transplant, thus necessitating a trip back east for his shot at revenge when he saw Hans's name on the Brick City roster. Hans plucked the tab on his last can of Coors, because it's the silver bullet and we now have a werewolf on our hands, and took a long pull before beginning the ritual of wrapping his goatee around the striker. When it was tight and secure, he finished the beverage in one almighty chug, crumpled the can in his fist, and fired it into the trash receptacle directly to Jack's right. Mellon flinched as it sailed past, but quickly regained his composure. The two settled in, and the ref moved the puck into the center. The secret of Jack's success, another Michael J. Fox film, soon became apparent. Although he could have easily tied his own hair to the mallet in an imitation of Hans, and with much to spare, Jack opted instead to hunch over the machine, letting his abundant beard hover as cover. His opponent's sightline on the disc so obscured, Jack's shoulders and eyes would initiate a series of fiery feints, diversionary jiggles, and blustering psych-outs, wearing his foe down with blinded bewilderment, until at the last second, lifting his chin slightly to snipe off his shot. Possession fell to Hans first, prompting Jack to taunt, "Go on, boy, peck like a chicken." He'd obviously not understood what Hans had been through, nor seen deliverance. Fans gathered closer, it being difficult to spot the black puck amidst all the hair. With the lightning continuing to rage outside, many swore they saw sparks flying off the paddles, and it was obvious by the postures of the players that the surface friction was something other than regulation. Neither complained, however. They were already engaged in battle. Short of a power failure, a very real possibility no one in attendance was willing to acknowledge, nothing would stop them now. Although both men were known for annihilating their adversaries within seconds, this match lasted much longer than usual. Such were the levels of skill and concentration involved. One had to hand it to Jack. He certainly played well, maneuvering his bane deftly, as according to the rulebook, any contact between this and the disc would be ruled a foul. The referee was having quite a time of it, keeping tabs on hair-to-puck contact, his face held close to the table, abuzz with atmospheric anomalies. To anyone else, Jack's unique style was overwhelming, but Hans showed true backbone, even if it was part porcine. The biscuit clicked and clacked to and fro, side to side, slipping under and out from Jack's beard, all the while Hans remaining focused, the crowd rapt. At 6-6, it seemed they were all levitating. Hans and Jack locked eyes, pupils burning with venom and determination. Returning Hans's gaze was Jack's mistake. Having looked away from the puck for even that split second, Jack fell for Hans's fake to the right as he banked it off the left-hand wall just past the center line, completely clearing the hanging hair into Jack's goal. At just that moment, lightning flashed once more. The memory of losing it in front of Diane Campbell rushed back to Rumbo with the despair of his current defeat. and all who caught the look on Jack's face, illuminated by the electrical storm, later described the curious impression of being in the presence of a lupine scarecrow. The lights in the building dimmed for a second. When they returned, Jack was gone. Some say he decamped to the Cleveland bar band scene, another reference to Light of Day. Others that he married his longtime therapist who he'd been seeing to deal with his rage towards Hans. Therapist, that's a real life reference to Michael J. Fox, as he married Ellen, who was a psychology major on Family Ties. There's also some evidence that Jack lingered in the area for a while and planned to run for mayor. Another popular rumor is that he commenced working on hoverboard technology, Back to the Future, with the goal of pioneering games where both player and puck stay afloat. When Jack was finally tracked down in the mid-1990s, he was running a rec center aboard an old-fashioned, fully functional steam locomotive in Northern California. What is interesting is that after the Brick City match, both Hans Freeman and Jack Mellon would pursue careers that took air hockey on the move. Independently, each sought to combine the sport they loved with the long hours on the road they were putting in to play it, and thus they began to believe this would be the ultimate way of competing, plus a great boon for your average traveler. Fueled rather by expansion than negativity, Hans sought to do one better than Jack and take the enterprise to the skies. After a few more undefeated years as world champion, at a regular checkup with Dr. Slothrop, the surgeon warned that if this lifestyle continued, he would require another replacement very, very soon. Not a problem and happy to do it, the doctor intoned, but Hans had grown used to this particular spinal companion. You never forget your first porcine transplant. And knew it was time to retire. He had other dreams, trusting that anything was possible. As he once proved to the naysayers that one could in fact play air hockey with one's face, he now set out to get his pilot's license, soon opening a premier airline service complete with gaming tables, and proving that, indeed, pigs can fly. So that was Pigheaded from Sporting Moustaches. You get it anywhere. Get it from your indie bookshop if you can. Support, local indie bookshops. So you can get it anywhere online or hopefully in person too. And yeah, I'll be reading some more soon. Thanks.